This is the darkest part of my story, the real skeleton in my closet that I've kept hidden away until now. Hey, I'm Gruff. I've talked about my struggles related to my face and my voice on here before, but there's a much darker part of my story that I haven't talked about. Today, I'm here to uncover the real skeleton in my closet, turmoil that runs much deeper than the surface. Growing up, I was the weird kid. I didn't have a lot of interests that made sense to a lot of the people around me. They were pretty unconventional. I liked Hatsune Miku. I liked creepypastas, a show called Fruits Basket, things that my friends around me didn't really understand or could relate to. Nowadays, I see it a lot more commonly, but at the time, it wasn't something that I could relate to the people around me. I struggled a lot to connect with those around me. So I spent a lot of my time alone. I was picked on, I was made fun of, I was assaulted, if it wasn't outright bullying, I was still treated differently and they kept their distance. I would make friends and I would go home and I would be like, I made a friend, and sooner or later they would stop talking to me because they were embarrassed to be seen around me, they were embarrassed to be my friend, they were embarrassed by me. In high school, I had experiences with some people who acted like they were my friend. I couldn't really tell if they thought I was a friend or not. They were friendly to me. They were like, hey, best friend, and stuff like that. But I feel like in retrospect, maybe they weren't being all that friendly. Maybe I was being messed with. Maybe they thought it was funny. Maybe I was the joke. And then I would come home and my family would make fun of my interests and my hair and my voice and my sexuality even before I even understood it. I've always felt like a spectacle in my household. I remember being pantsed by a family member in front of the rest of my family. As a result of that, I learned that I wasn't deserving of respect, even from my closest peers. In turn, the internet became my safe space, along with a friend who lived close by. I spent a lot of my time at her house. I practically lived there. I just didn't feel at home and at school, and they understood me. They liked the things I liked. They shared the interests that I had, and they didn't judge me for that. They didn't make jokes about it. They didn't question it. They didn't create a spectacle out of it. For the first time, I felt understood. I met some friends on a chat site called Zat. Some of the friends I made over there, I still talk to this day, and they're some of my best friends. They too understood me, and they also liked the things that I liked, and I found community in that, and that's something that I'm really, really appreciative of to this day. I don't know who I would be without them. Although I met some good people, I also fell victim to grooming and abuse from adults who were twice my age. I still have yet to fully process that. I don't even know how to feel about it, but I had my feelings used as a weapon against me to make all my friends hate me, and a lot of them did. I confided in this person. I trusted them, and they took advantage of that. So from there, my ability to trust other people went from already struggling to pretty rough. The first time I saw cracks in my mental state was about when I was 13 years old. I fell out of touch with the things I cared a lot about. At one point in my life, I stopped being as passionate about the things I was once a lot more passionate about. I socially withdrew and I became a bit of a shut-in. More so than before. I'd always been more to myself, but from this point onward, it was more severe. At 15 years old, I remember lashing out at some friends of mine for leaving me. So since they were already leaving, I figured I'd give them a reason to not come back. By this point, the cracks were beginning to show. And as I mentioned, I had a friend who lived nearby. I spent most of my time there. I felt more at home there than I ever had anywhere else. And then one day they moved away. I'll never forget that night. Seeing the one place that took me in with open arms and didn't judge me for everything that I was as a person was empty. My friend and her family were gone. This was a breaking point for me. Everything went downhill from here. I can't even begin to pinpoint where everything came crashing down. I just know that it was overwhelming. It was all at once, all encompassing. There was nothing I could really do to stop that slow downward spiral. When I was 16 in high school, I was sleeping in every single day almost, and I would be missing periods, and I would be late to classes, and I was a mess. I was an absolute mess in high school, and I was constantly having phone calls home, and as a result, my parents then would punish me. They would take things away. They would give me long-winded conversations about the real world, and just generally I learned that my problems I was having that I didn't fully understand were wrong. I wished that was taken a little more seriously than just simply looking at me as some delinquent child who is sleeping in and late every day. I think there was a much deeper issue to be aware of. I think that if I were to go back, I would have maybe said something a little more. Maybe I should have been more vocal about things. Personally, if I had a kid and I was watching them go through the motions of that, I would be concerned. I would have questions as to where they are mentally speaking. You don't just get to that point out of nowhere. When I was 17 years old, I started to overshare in places that I shouldn't have. I started to be a little more erratic with my emotions, and I didn't know where to put them, and I didn't know how to control them. And a lot of my friendships and relationships I had at the time became very rocky and lacked stability. I had a social worker in high school. That was about the extent of the help I got at the time. He gave me some worksheets and some assessments about my mental state, and he recommended that I follow up somewhere else and seek help there. But I, at the time, didn't follow through. I didn't have it in me to pick my pieces back up. I barely understood what pieces I was missing in the first place. It's really difficult to push yourself out of a situation where you're so deeply ingrained and you're so used to it and you're so familiar with it. You almost become comfortable with it, even though it's not comfortable, but it's all you know. And going out and fixing all of my problems on my own felt daunting. So from there, I just continued to sink. Prior to the social worker I had in high school, I had been assessed for ADHD by a doctor when I was a kid, and their consensus was that I chose not to focus, so I didn't have it. And that was the end of that. It was a write-off. I've never received a diagnosis or treatment for any issue I've ever had since. I mean, I don't even know what's wrong with me. In 2020, I turned to substances and I abused them to cope. Well, that certainly didn't help. My family doctor wasn't technically mine, it was my mom's, so they refused to see me when I first called, but then I had my mom speak to them and they made an arrangement. But that same doctor referred me to a place for psychosis because I had discussed having intrusive thoughts. From that point, I had 2 10-minute appointments with a psychiatrist who closed my file after deeming it as not of concern. She went something along the lines of depression, maybe anxiety, stop doing what you're doing with the substances, we're closing your file. And that was that. For 4 years, I gave up. I didn't reach back out for help for a long time because of how defeated that experience made me feel. It felt like I was getting absolutely nowhere past that point, and so I just stopped trying. I didn't want to take that risk again for someone to just tell you, go to therapy, reach out for help. There's a lot of privilege in saying that because there's a lot of people who do reach out for help and they don't get it. They are gaslit by professionals and they are let down and failed by these people who should be trained to understand how to handle these issues, but they don't sometimes. So it's understandable why someone would not want to go through that process again, just to be let down again. Even if you do find a therapist, you're not guaranteed that that's going to help you. You still have to make those hurdles and those jumps yourself. And not everyone's in a place to do that. Not everyone is in a place where they have the capacity to just pull their bootstraps up. And I don't like that phrase. I don't like the idea that the world gave you a hand that's kind of shit. So good luck. That's your job to deal with now. It doesn't leave a person feeling very hopeful about their situation or their future or their life or anything, especially when they're doing it on their own with very minimal support. And on top of that, some people are still undergoing the difficult situations that are affecting them. There's people who are in abusive relationships, abusive families. There is a lot of reason for a person to not have it in them to just fix all their problems on their own. You can't trip and fall and be expected to heal while you're still on the ground. So after that point, I went through college and it became just about going through the motions and just being this lifeless vessel, just getting through every day and just wanting it to be over and done with. And then the next day comes and it's once again doing it all over again. And it's exhausting. It's so tiring. As of today, I have never felt worse about the situation I'm in. I have never felt less alive. Feels like the kid I used to know myself to be died a very, very long time ago. The things he cared about, I don't care about, even though I want to care about things. I want my life back, but it just feels so beyond me. It feels beyond my control. I just let everything crash and burn. The past several years, I have continued abusing substances to numb the pain and to just get by. It's not something I'm proud of. I feel every single day that I'm letting the people around me down and that I'm a moral failure. It feels like a moral failure. This past year, I've been beyond burnt out. I haven't been drawing much. I haven't been making videos much. I haven't been just doing any of the things that I used to care about. I have a huge backlog of work I still have to finish, and I feel this crushing amount of guilt regarding that because I know I have to do it. I know I've been wanting to do it. It's a cycle between not doing things because I'm feeling guilt and then feeling guilt because I'm not doing things. And so then nothing gets done. It eats me alive. I'll put it just like that. My head goes to very dark places at times. I've lost count of the amount of days I just simply don't want to be here at all. As hard as that is to admit. I've driven people away, I've hurt people, I've overshared in places I shouldn't have. I've become a person I am not proud of. I've never spoken about this on here before because of the shame that comes up and how I feel like I'm letting people down and I'm supposed to be of an example. I'm supposed to meet this expectation that I've given myself in my head. I feel so wrong for feeling the way I do and experiencing life the way I do and reacting to it the way that I do. And on top of that, being told by family to stop complaining and that I'm sensitive and that they don't care about my feelings. I've learned to just shove it into a box until it just explodes and I can't control it. I feel like I have to have a real reason to feel the way I do and to react the way I do and to not be on top of things. I still spend my days locked up in my room by myself, just as I did when I was a kid. I know I'm not supposed to compare my situations to someone else, but it inherently feels unfair for me to feel the way I do when people feel much worse and have it much worse than I do. And they don't even get the time of day, so why am I complaining? Where do I have room to feel the things that I do? That being said, as of today, I am 9 days sober. I have a new doctor who I think is actually listening to me for the first time. She booked a physical, she booked a psychiatrist appointment, which I'll be seeing in September. Hopefully I can finally get answers I've been trying to find so desperately for a large part of my life. It sucks that it has had to take this long. I wish I had support so much sooner. I wish people listened to me and didn't call me dramatic, didn't call me sensitive, took my feelings at face value, because frankly, I would have been in a much different place today. That being said, I'm slowly trying to pick my own pieces back up again, catching back up on work that I've left pending for a long time, far too long. The people who are dealing with me in that are endlessly patient, and for that I'm so thankful and thank you. I'm getting to everything slowly but surely. I've been making videos again. I've been trying to upload more consistently. It's been hard, but I care about this a lot. The fact that anyone has stuck around over the last 3 years that I've been making videos is surreal to me. I don't feel deserving of it. The community that I've built up to this point, it reminds me of why I do what I do every single time I do it, and thank you. I don't have the words. This is where I'm at mentally speaking. This is a very difficult thing to talk about. The purpose of this video, I hope to be as honest as I humanly could be. I mean, I know I've talked about my voice and all of these different reasons why I don't film and don't do things and but the real reason, this is it. This is the skeleton in the closet. And it's a lot of why I navigate the world in the way I do. I hope this resonated with you. I hope someone can watch this and somewhat relate to it. I know maybe I would have needed something like this a long time ago. It's not just me. It's not just my problem. Society in general, the way we view mental health, we have a long way to go. And if this conversation can serve as a starting point, even if something microscopic, it was worth it. And if someone watches this and it helps them feel 5% better about their circumstances, it was worth it. That being said, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for giving me the time of day. I hope you can maybe apply this to someone in your life. Be a little more compassionate in what they're going through, because you don't know. You'd never know. If you want to see more from me, you can watch the other videos I've put out, or you can like the video, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.